wool, and she wanted to meet the cotton pickers that picked her cotton. And so she was just, when I was interviewing her, she was just preparing to go to Uruguay to meet Pedro and his sheep. So it was just such a light bulb moment for me when she told me that she was embarking on this journey, because I was on my own sustainability journey at that time as well.
Amazing.
And had been many years, and had made a lot of changes in my personal life, but that just didn't feel like enough. And I was feeling very restless and wondering what I could do with my skills as a filmmaker to kind of shine light on the environmental issues that I cared about, and have a broader impact beyond my own life. I was also really wanting to make my first feature film. And so it was just like the stars aligned in that moment. And
Amazing.
I knew that I had to follow Amy's story, and that it had to be a feature film.
Amazing. I really love that. And I was really interested to know, while you were following her process and the creation of the pieces and all of that, which part was the most interesting part for you personally? Because for me, I found that creating something that's extremely sustaining. This is for me as and I really wondered, as a filmmaker and as someone who was very indulged in the process, which part was your favorite during shooting the film?
Oh, that's such a good question. And actually, no one's ever asked me that question. Um, you know what? I would have to say, because I'm such a people person and a storyteller, that it was the people behind the clothes
Yeah.
and behind the process that was the most compelling for me. You know, meeting Pedro and his family in Uruguay, and learning about their family's history of wool farming, which goes back generations, and being welcomed onto these family ranches,
Yeah.
and being treated like family, and just seeing like the culture and the community behind these different steps of the supply chain. That I mean, even when you say the word supply chain, it just sounds very dry and boring.
Yeah.
But going on this journey brought the word supply chain to life, and now I think of it as a very exciting word, full of so many different interesting people all around the world practicing their crafts. You know, all of the animals involved and the different locations. So I would say that was the best part.
Amazing. I really felt like every stage of the process had its unique like palette and color, depending on the place and the time and the people that you were working with. This was really
Yeah, oh, I
amazing.
love that. I love that you picked up on that.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah.
Um, yes, there is another thing, and this is out of being in part of the industry. While working on the project, how did you fund the project itself? Like working in the pre-production phase, and another technical thing. How was it as an experience to shift from being an editor to being a director? Yeah, so
Great question.
it's like a double.
Okay, so how did we fund the project? That is worthy of a film in itself. It was not an easy process. It took about 3 years to complete our financing, and there were many steps to it. So, going back to when I met Amy, and I decided I wanted to start following her story, and making this film. I went back to my boss at Duck Productions, and I pitched the idea to her.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, even though Duck Production does short form content and it's commercial content, they've never done a feature documentary before. You know, Lindsay Lowe, who's the founder of the company and was my boss, she had her reservations. She was worried about, you know, being critical of the fashion industry when that is also her livelihood. It's her business to promote the fashion industry. But to her credit, she very bravely took the project on board, became a producer on the film, and put the first funding into the film, which allowed us to travel to Uruguay, to travel to Peru. Without that first funding, we would have missed those trips, and I have no idea what the film would have been. So I'm forever grateful to her. And then we started applying for grants. We got some small grant funding, and then a real breakthrough was getting some funding from the British Film Institute / Doc Society. So when the BFI came on board, that was just like kind of attracted other funding. So that was really, really crucial. And then finally, we were connected to a few investors in the US who kind of finished the funding for us and were huge champions of the film. But it really took a long time, and it was often a matter of getting a bit of money in, going out and shooting, and then not being able to do anything for a while until we got writing applications and going to meetings and stuff, and pitching until the next funding came in, and then we could do a bit more. It was one of the most challenging parts of the process for sure, was just raising the funds to do it. And then in terms of shifting from an editor to a director, it's a big shift. So I worked as a freelance editor for about 10 years on all different kinds of projects, from TV series to feature documentaries, short films. But I always wanted to be a director. And so slowly I started also doing small directing projects on the side, a lot for brands, fashion brands, until ultimately I was doing, maybe as of 10 years ago, it was mostly directing and producing, but short form, and which is hugely different from directing your first feature, both in terms of time commitment. So for a short project that I do for a fashion brand, like a campaign film or something, maybe it's a month. And for this feature documentary, it took 5 years. It's just requires so much tenacity and resilience and out of the box thinking. It's a marathon. It's a different experience, but it's one that I always wanted. And I'm so grateful that I got to do it. It's like the biggest dream of my life to direct a feature film. I'm really grateful that I got to do it and finish it and put it out in the world. I'm working on my second one now, and
Yeah, I guess this was my last question before taking anyone else question that they want to ask you. What's your upcoming project, and is it relevant to this one as an idea?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. So I mentioned that I'm working on my second feature film, also in the sustainability world, but in farming. So I'm following the plight of a family farm in the middle of England. They're the first organic farm in the UK, and I'm following their fight to save their farm from evil corporate developers who move in next door and want to take over the farm. And the kid, it's like a David and Goliath story, and the kids stand up to the corporation, and it's amazing. So I've been working on that for 2 years. Everything takes so long. But I'm also doing some shorter projects in the sustainable fashion world. So I can't say too much about them, but I will say I'm working with an amazing pioneering upcycling company in the UK, and we're planning this touring immersive film project about the process of upcycling from an existing garment to a beautiful new garment and all of the processes in between. And that will be shown in like museum spaces and things and be really immersive and interactive, which I'm very excited about. And then I'm actually just prepping to film next week a short documentary about kind of women's health and empowerment, but from the perspective of their shoes, which sounds a bit wacky, but it's looking into female oppression through clothing, through the centuries, and all the ways that clothes have inhibited us, impacted our health, restricted our mobility, kept us in the home. Everything from like whalebone corsets to Chinese foot binding, all the way up to present day, like heels and handbags, and looking at that history and like how we can break free from that history.
Wow, this is really interesting.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it's extremely cool.
About it.
Yeah, it's really nice. I would love to see this film. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Well, let's keep in touch, and I can share the film when it's finished.
Yeah, we'll wait for it. We'll be waiting for it. We can take any questions if anyone wants to ask anything.
Hello, Becky. Thank you for joining us for today.
Hi there.
Hi, it's Isra, and I wanted to ask, how do you keep maintaining the flow of the film when it takes over 3 years or 4 years to produce and make? Because it's a long journey, and I completely understand the funding part, because I do handle the funding part, so I understand that sometimes it's demotivating to continue, because you do fill a lot of applications and request a lot of funding from people and a lot of paperwork in between. So how do you still maintain the inspiration and the flow of the film without losing what you started from the beginning?
Yeah. I mean, it was so hard, honestly. I think what it comes down to was just like my undying passion for this subject matter and the story, and that was my fuel. And I really it was not an option not to finish this film, even though there were a million challenges. Like, I was going to finish it and make it good no matter what. But for sure, once we were finished filming, the edit process was extremely long. The edit process was 18 months. And that was way more challenging than the filming in many ways, just because there's so much footage. And you talk about like, how do you maintain the flow? Well, how do you keep the story flowing? Like, how do you create a 90-minute story that flows when you're dealing with very complex issues, when you're dealing with kind of a narrative that took place over 3 years? We have 300 hours of footage. We had quite a lot of, executives and funders who were giving me all sorts of feedback and conflicting feedback. And how do you stay true to your vision, and how do you know what to listen to and what to discard? It was really, really hard. And it was also hard to find that balance of sharing the information about fashion's impact with Amy's narrative. And we had cuts where we would veer too far into Amy's narrative, and then it would feel too light, and we didn't have enough room for the hard-hitting information, and you didn't feel the urgency and scale of the issue. But then if we veered too far into the information side of things and the stats and the facts, it felt too heavy, too preachy. So we kept like teetering like this, and I really don't feel like we hit that balance until the very, very end. So yeah, it was hard. It was really, really hard, but thank God we got there eventually, I think.
It's a great film. Congratulations for that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone wants to ask a question? No. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Oh, Thanks for having me, guys. Thanks for watching the film.
One more.
There is one more question.
Hello. So I wanted to ask about like if you felt an impact from the movie after like people in the industry have watched it or other designers and all of this.
Yeah, great question. So on one hand, it's hard to measure impact, right? But we did run an impact campaign alongside the release of the film. So that impact campaign had lots of different areas that we focused on. One was education. So we brought the film to lots of different design courses at universities, to schools at all levels, from kind of middle school all the way up to high school. And actually, many schools have bought the film and brought it into their libraries and incorporated it into their curriculums, which is really, really exciting. And that's an impact that I am thrilled about. Another area that we focused on is policy. So we did policy screenings in the EU ahead of a historic vote on legislation for the fashion industry, and the legislation was approved. I'm sure, I don't know what kind of a role we had in that, but at least we were there helping, build the momentum. We've also done policy screenings in the US and the UK, also pushing for legislation in the fashion industry. In terms of the industry itself, we were covered in most of the major fashion magazines. Amy, as a result, has been brought into different brands and different programs to kind of share her knowledge with teams at fashion houses. We've done tons of screenings for fashion brands, everyone from like the biggest fast fashion brands to luxury brands. So we've definitely done a lot of impact work. And so I hope that we've, contributed even just a little bit in terms of moving the needle on, spreading awareness and giving the industry ideas for solutions, inspiring people. And actually, even on an individual level. So I live in a village in southwest England. So there's about 10,000 people in my town. And so a lot of us know each other. And an example of impact that I actually saw in my own life is I went to a wedding recently, and three different friends, female friends, walked up to me and proudly shared the choices they had made of what they wore to the wedding because of Fashion Reimagined. So one of them said, normally I would go on ASOS, I would buy a new outfit because I know everyone here has seen all the outfits that I have and I don't like repeating outfits. But because of your movie, I'm wearing this, I know it looks good on me, and I'm like, it looks great. So she decided to just wear what she had, she didn't buy something new. Someone else decided to try renting, and someone else borrowed a really cool vintage outfit from their mom. And I was so, honestly, that made me so happy.
Yeah, this is amazing. It's extremely cool, yeah. Yeah. So anyone else wants to say anything? We are really thankful that you are here with us today, and we really enjoyed the film, and we really do appreciate your effort and everything you went through during the creation of this film. It's amazing, and it was really amazing to talk to you today.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Take care. Yay for you.
Thank you. See you later.
Bye, guys. Good
Bye.
night.
Good night. Bye.